Majority Leader.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. KI is Kimani, Ichungwa, Honorable Speaker. I hear members asking, who is that? Honorable Speaker, I rise to second. And just before I begin, Honorable Speaker, just to re-clarify that we are debating the Tax Procedures Amendment number 2 Bill of 2024, not the committee's report, because I did hear my good friend, the Honorable Nyikal, raise the issue of the report. And it's important also to mention that these reports, together with the business laws report, were tabled last evening around 5 o'clock. And I'm certain the Honorable Nyikal was not in the house at that time, so he may not have known, but I'm thankful that you are able to guide that those reports were tabled. And it's good also to remind members that these bills were published some time back, Honorable Speaker, and have been in the House. This bill has been in the House for the last month and a week. It was published on the 1st of November. So we had all the latitude to interact with the bill, and the committee only enriches what they have considered following public participation, and the reports are there. And indeed, Honorable Nyikal, if you have had the chance to go through the report and members, you'll be able to see that the public were very much in support of this bill, because this bill is addressing challenges or issues that were raised by members of the public. These bills were not just published by the National Treasury or the Leader of Majority. The bills came from a program where the National Treasury began with calling for views from members of the public on the tax regime in Kenya, how they would want to be taxed, how they would want to be treated by the Kenya Revenue Authority and other agencies that collect taxes, levies, and fees from them. And therefore, the National Treasury, in coming up with this bill, came from a very consultative process. And you remember when CS John Buddy was appointed as Cabinet Secretary, he did commit to Kenyans that he would indeed work very hard to change the manner in which the National Treasury interacts with Kenyans. And I think at the end of August or beginning of September, the National Treasury did call for views from Kenyans. Many Kenyans submitted their views, and those views are contained in these 3 bills published from the Blues. It is from the views of the public. Therefore, even before we went back to the public as a National Assembly, because constitutionally we must carry out our public participation, the National Treasury had gone to the people, gotten their views, collated their views into the 3 bills: the Tax Procedures Amendment Bill, the Tax Laws Amendment Bill, and the Business Laws Amendment Bill, Business Laws Amendment Bill of 2024, whose reports were also tabled yesterday. And following the extensive public participation carried out across at least 6 counties in the country, and lastly, here in Nairobi at KICC by the Finance and National Planning Committee, then the reports were tabled yesterday, and members are at liberty to interact. Honorable Speaker, when I speak about these bills being about the people, you remember last year, Honorable Speaker, we were able to lose a number of provisions in the finance bill. Sorry, not last year, earlier this year in June. And top among those provisions that got lost with the finance bill were very good and progressive proposals that were helping Kenyans as they settle their tax liabilities. Honorable Speaker, the mover of the bill has gone into great length to speak to some of these issues, from the tax invoice and the requirements of the tax invoice to e-teams, and even exempting our small-scale farmers or small-scale traders from the issue of e-teams. And these are some of the things that now will be able to benefit the Kenyan people, that unlike the situation before where every other small-scale farmer, small-scale trader was required to be on the e-team system, now it gives you a threshold of the 1 million shillings that the mover of the bill has alluded to, and I don't need to repeat that, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, more importantly for me is the question of tax amnesty. You remember, Honorable Speaker, we had a tax amnesty that was expiring on the 30th of June this year. And many Kenyans, Honorable Speaker, because of the difficulties of liquidity in the country, exchequer not always being available for either the national government ministries and state departments or even for our county governments, millions of our business people are owed money by government and government agencies. And I say millions, Honorable Speaker, of our people, from small-scale traders to very big contractors. But all these people, Honorable Speaker, because they have invoiced government, they have invoiced for VAT, they are required by the 20th of the following month to settle their VAT liabilities. When they don't settle, Honorable Speaker, they are penalized. And interest is levied on the amounts that remain unpaid, for instance, on VAT. Some of them, their financial years end in June, some in April, some in September. And they are required to pay income tax. But they have no money because their bills are yet to be settled. Some are in the pending bills committee that the former Auditor General Uko was working on. Some have not been cleared yet by the pending bills committee. Some have been cleared, but they are yet to be settled. Yet KRA continues to accrue taxes, tax interest, and tax penalties on these business people, Honorable Speaker. It is these people, Honorable Speaker, that we must think about today as we pass this bill. Because this bill now is giving them another period of 1 year from 30th of June 2024 to 30th of June 2025. That as government agencies, as government, national government, as a county government settle their bills, then they will be able to settle their principal tax arrears or tax liabilities without having to accrue either penalties or interest. Honorable Speaker, you may imagine that is a penalty of maybe 10% or interest of maybe 2% per month, but there are people who I know, Honorable Speaker, contractors in this country who owe Kenya Revenue Authority hundreds of millions in terms of penalties and hundreds of millions in terms of tax interest. And therefore, with this tax amnesty, Honorable Speaker, they will be able now to have that penalty and interest waived, and they settle the principal tax that they owe. And Honorable Speaker, when you engage taxpayers, and that is the spirit, the new spirit with KRA and the National Treasury, an engagement with taxpayers, they settle their tax obligations. When you offer a taxpayer an opportunity to waive his or her penalty and interest for them to pay the principal tax, they get encouraged to pay. And therefore, it becomes a win-win situation, both for the taxpayer who makes a saving, and also for KRA that let us waive your interest and penalty if you pay our principal over probably another period of 6 months, and you do away with your tax liabilities. And with that, Honorable Speaker, the taxpayer or the government is also benefiting. It's not just the business people getting this is an amendment to benefit us business people. Even the government is benefiting because in this agreement with taxpayers on waiving their penalties and interest, government also collects the tax liability earlier than they would have. Because what happens in most cases, Honorable Speaker, you will find all these business people end up going either to court or to the tax tribunals and get into a protracted battle with KRA over the settlement of those penalties and tax arrears, Honorable Speaker. But when we encourage them to pay their principal tax, they pay in time, government collects more revenue, we are able to offer more services and better services to the people of Kenya, and the business owners, Honorable Speaker, are able to get their tax, part of their penalties and interest waived. And with that, they have more liquidity to put into their businesses and therefore grow their businesses, create more employment, and eventually also end up paying more taxes since they're turning over more money than they would have, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, of course, there are also other procedural issues that the mover has alluded to, and I don't need to repeat all of them, especially on people who collect or withhold tax and fail to remit that tax. And the penalty that the mover has alluded to of 10% for people who deliberately do not remit taxes, Honorable Speaker, within the specified times in statute. Because this, Honorable Speaker, has been a big problem. People withhold taxes, be it VAT or withholding tax. They know the timelines, but you choose to trade with government money. And even the Holy Bible tells us, Honorable Speaker, that give unto Caesar what belongs to Caesar, and give to God what belongs to God. And since all these business people and us go to church on Sundays and we give to God what belongs to God, it's only fair that then also when you withhold taxes that belong to the taxman, then you remit those taxes to the taxman within the specified period of time. And a person who fails to submit that then will incur a penalty for that late submission of tax. Of course, Honorable Speaker, the mover has also spoken to the issues that we need transactions that require PIN numbers. And it's important, Honorable Speaker, because again, we are finding situations where people are buying cars. People are transacting in land and transferring land, but without PIN numbers, Honorable Speaker. And therefore, if I am able to buy a car, it means I have an income. And the personal identification number for tax purposes then should be a major prerequisite. If I am buying land, Honorable Speaker, or paying for insurance premiums, you cannot be paying for insurance premiums if you do not have a source of income. And therefore, it's one of the ways, Honorable Speaker, in enhancing some of these things to ensure that every other person who is earning an income within Kenya and outside Kenya and is a Kenyan is paying taxes, so that we continue to encourage a tax policy or a tax position, Honorable Speaker, where each and every one of us who earns an income pays our fair tax burden, so that we fairly share our tax burden and not overload some, as the case has been in the past, Honorable Speaker. And therefore, I do believe, Honorable Speaker, with the enactment of this bill, it's a very short bill, Honorable Speaker, only about 10 clauses, and Honorable Speaker,